Distinguished delegates, fellow Africans, partners in global climate action, as we convene in Belém for COP30 in the coming weeks, Africa calls for justice, equity and transformation as we collaboratively advance the future of climate resilience and prosperity. Africa is not just a victim. We are a solutions hub. Africa contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet we endure some of the most severe climate impacts, from prolonged droughts in the Horn of Africa to devastating floods in West and Central Africa. Despite this injustice, Africa is leading the bold, concrete solutions that address community challenges. Distinguished Africans and the global communities, the Africa Climate Summit series reaffirms Africa's readiness to make meaningful contributions to the global climate action through innovation, community-driven initiative, and youth leadership. The African Union has demonstrated that Africa is not only building resilient to climate impacts, but also innovative in its response to climate change. Through the African Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategies and Action Plan of 2022 to 2032, the continent is unified in climate governance, adaptation, green economy, and low-carbon development. On the issue of climate finance and just transition, this is a call for equity and context. Africa is estimated to require US 2.8 trillion by 2030 to meet its climate and development goals. However, current climate finance flows remain insufficient and disproportionately loan-based, thereby deepening debt burdens across the continent. We therefore call for a decisive shift towards grant-based finance, debt for climate swaps, and direct access mechanisms that empower African institutions and communities to lead climate responses. Climate finance must be predictable, equitable, and transformative, not a tool of dependence, but a vehicle for reparative justice and resilience. At the same time, Africa's transition must reflect its unique realities. The continent holds over 30% of the world's critical minerals, which are essential for the global energy shift. Yet, more than 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity. Our just transition must be context-specific, allowing African nations to responsibly monetize their resources while investing in renewable energy, inclusive infrastructure, and green industrialization. Africa's pathways must be locally defined, community-centered, and aligned with our development of priorities and sovereign aspirations. On the issue of adaptation and loss damage, justice and survival for Africa, Africa's adaptation needs are projected to exceed US $250 billion annually by 2030. Yet, adaptation finance accounts for less than 25% of total climate finance received. Adaptation is a lifeline for our farmers, for the cities and ecosystems. We therefore call for scaled-up, grant-based adaptation finance and support for locally led initiatives. The global goal on adaptation must reflect Africa's needs with measurable targets, contextual indicators, and alignment with national development plans. The Loss and Damage Fund, which was established at COP27, must be fully capitalized and accessible to vulnerable communities. This is not aid. It is compensation for harm caused, grounded in human rights and climate justice principles. On the issue of inclusion, no climate justice without social justice. Africa's climate response must center on the most vulnerable. Over 60% of Africa's population is under 25, and the youth are already driving climate innovation, advocacy, and entrepreneurship. Women and girls who are disproportionately affected by climate impacts, particularly in agriculture, water access, and health, must be empowered through education, through leadership opportunities, and gender-responsive finance, as demonstrated by the African Union's Green Recovery Action Plan of 2022 to 2027. Children whose future are most at risk must be protected through resilient health and education systems that can withstand climate shocks. Africa calls on the world to elevate these voices as central actors in shaping their future. Climate justice must be inclusive, intergenerational, and community-driven, ensuring that no one is left behind. On the issue of reparations, the AU theme of the year, the African Union iterates the need for justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. Reparations must guide our climate negotiations in Berlin during COP30. Reparations must include debt cancellation, technology acquisition, investment in infrastructure, and compensation for ecological and cultural loss. Africa's historical contribution and sacrifices must be acknowledged, not with words, but with resources, with respect and reform. To the global economy and community, Africa is ready to lead, but leadership must be met with partnership, with respect, with equity and solidarity. And to my fellow Africans, our time is now. Let us rise, united to shape a climate resilient, just and prosperous future for now and for future generations. I thank you all.